Hey everybody, Seth here with Only Kinda Everything with Ricky and a special guest here today, Zodiac.
My camera's screwing up.
You and your camera. We already went over this.
Yeah, tech support guy should have known better. So, guys, it's been a minute since Ricky and I have gotten a chance to sit down. First time getting to sit down with Zodiac here. A lot's been going on in the world of professional wrestling. We would actually just talk about it going into recording with Tanahashi's promotion in New Japan getting ready to take effect.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I kind of feel like it's potentially a move by New Japan to keep Okada, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it could be. Because a lot of people were eyeballing Okada over here, and he was pretty well received in the States. So I know AEW was eyeballing him. WWE evidently was looking at maybe trying to snag him, but that didn't work out. So I think the problem with WWE is probably going to be his age and everything, because he's a little bit older. So
Yeah,
and for the crowd, they would have to get him established, because a lot of the regular WWE crowd isn't going to know who he is.
yeah, but I mean they if they put the machine behind him the right way, I think they could get him established relatively quick. Just treat him like the star he is.
If they did the same thing they did with Kenta, then yeah, they probably would.
Yeah.
Just as long as he doesn't
that,
get the injuries Kenta did.
Yeah, minus the injuries, but just put the machine behind him on the main roster. Treat him like the Japanese John Cena, for no better terminology.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what he is.
Yeah.
A little bit flashier.
But I can see him.
Shut up, Rick.
Could you imagine his Rainmaker entrance though, somewhere over here with the production that they have and everything?
Oh yeah, imagine that WrestleMania Rainmaker entrance. God, that'd be a thing of beauty.
Like when they used to do the Gold Dust entrance and they had all the gold glitter and everything coming down, but with Okada's entrance, that would be pretty good.
Oh, that would be amazing. Man, it almost. I was talking to another friend of mine. If the idea is to keep Okada in New Japan, what position do you think he would? What position do you think he would fill?
Who, Okada?
Yeah, and in terms of like trying to go like rewarding him for staying, giving him like a corporate position, where do you think he goes?
That's a good.
I
can almost see him being like a head of talent relations type guy.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Back and forth with the States a lot, almost being like a liaison back and forth with the States.
Yeah. Another one he brought up is potentially vice president until potentially booking opens up.
Yeah. He could be an interesting VP.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Him and Tanahashi running stuff could be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody realistically thought, 2 years ago we would be in an era where Tanahashi, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, and in a way Bryan Danielson are the guys running professional wrestling right now.
Yeah, for the most part, because Danielson's pretty much running stuff backstage at AEW for the most part. And they're losing a lot of their production guys, like QT Marshall stepping down. A lot of the main production people and heads in the office are leaving. And evidently it's not like on bad terms. It's just they want to go do other stuff.
Yeah.
So,
and honestly, I kind of get where QT's coming from. He was wanting to really get in there and work. And, I get he's good at the production, but man, if he wants to work, let him work. Same reason Adam Copeland went.
Yeah, he wants to wrestle more, I think, while he still can, because he's not necessarily young, but he can still get out there and get at it. So he probably just wants to get out there and still, while he's got some years behind him, get some ring time, do that, and establish himself a little bit more in a public face. That way, if he does take a behind-the-scenes job or a PR job, they take him a little bit more serious. Because there's a lot of people, it's like you bring up QT Marshall, and they're like, oh, who?
Yeah.
He wasn't a very prominent force on the screen for them as far as in-ring stuff.
I think the most notable that at least comes to my mind in a short order was that quick program with Paul White when Paul White debuted.
Yeah.
That's Yeah, it's playing second fiddle to a much, no pun intended, a much bigger guy.
Right.
Um,
That's the same thing with Sean Dean. Sean Dean was one of the guys for them you'd have to get a hold of for talent relations and everything else. And he's an amazing in-ring talent. You know? And they don't really do anything with him as far as TV wise. So
no, and I think that's I try to avoid, knocking the business side of AEW because I'm not, we're not there to know what's going on. But I think that's something that I feel like they could improve on. They have these guys who are just, some of these guys are potential, they throw the term around a lot in AEW, generational talent, but they have a really deep and strong roster that just doesn't feel like it gets utilized right.
Right. Well, and they keep bringing new guys in and signing other guys left and right.
Yeah.
So I mean, they need to either, and it's just my opinion, they need to either like cut some of the guys they're not going to use and let them go do something else and bring in some fresh guys, or they need to revamp and really take the guys that they're not using and do something with them.
Yeah.
Because they have, like I said, they have a deep roster of guys that they're just not using on a regular basis that could really do a lot for them. Like Sean Dean, Ricky Starks. Who else? Who was that talking about?
Miro's just finally starting to get back out there a bit.
Wasn't he hurt though?
He was for a time, but I think he had recovered not early, but about halfway through that big gap, and they just wasn't getting used.
Okay. Sean Spears was another one. He was hot when he was doing the stuff with Tully Blanchard and all that.
Yeah.
I think he's one of the best guys they got, him and Ricky Starks, and they don't do hardly anything with him.
Yeah, no, I would completely agree with that. I think it's the trap that every major wrestling promotion in the States have seemed to have done. Oh, look, new guys on the market, let's just hoover him up, and then we don't know what to do with the guys we've got already. WCW did it, WWE did it, TNA did it, but not to the same extent.
Yeah. Well, people got to remember, too, AEW's only been around for 5 years or so?
5 years, yeah.
Well, I mean, they're still learning a lot of stuff, and they'll figure stuff out eventually. They've got the capital and the money to make some mistakes, and they're still turning a profit, from what I understand. So it's not like they're really losing money, on the full end. I don't think they're losing a ton if they are.
I think it was Raj Giri? It might have been Raj Giri's, one of the others whose name escapes me, did a report, I want to say a month ago, where he said he actually estimates AEW is going to lose like $35 million this year.
That's not horrible, honestly, for a company under 5 years.
Yeah, it's not bad, but that's startling, knowing that they're bringing in more money than ever, but they're just not producing revenue.
Right. I think they made some hasty, silly mistakes. Like the video game was a big one that cost them a lot.
Yeah.
And there was so much delays on that. They signed some people for a lot of money where stuff just didn't work out. The whole thing with Punk and all that. That probably cost them a penny.
Absolutely, both times.
Yeah. So, I mean, look how many years did WWE probably lose money before they started really turning a profit?
Oh yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy as a fan who's not in the business sense, and I think that's for everybody, to sit and go, "Oh man, they're not making money. They're gonna go under." Right. It takes a lot for a wrestling promotion to go under, especially when you're the second biggest promotion in America and arguably the second biggest in the world.
Right. Well, and they came in they came in hot with the presence of trying to be the second biggest promotion in this. We'll say in the States. I don't want to say in the world because I think New Japan's bigger than them. But
yeah, I would agree.
We'll say in the States, and everybody makes that comparison, comparing them to WWE, which they have a 30-year following of fans. You can't compete with that. It's impossible.
Yeah.
Look at where they're at 10 years from now, maybe, and see, and things might level out. But if they're producing half the numbers that they are, and there's times that they'll beat them out in the ratings and beat them out in numbers, in the course of 4 or 5 years. That's pretty impressive. Most companies aren't even around in 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Impact TNA is a great example of that. They have kind of really found and secured that niche that they are and just run with it. They're not trying to be that competition anymore.
Well, and how many times were they about to go out of business and fell off? And, they did so many different brand changes. They did the stuff with Jeff Jarrett with Global Force. And, they had a Japan deal for a minute back and forth with them. The whole thing with Dixie and Panda Energy. So it's like, it takes a while to figure everything out. The saving grace, I think, with AEW is they have financial backing. They have their own money because the family itself owns sports teams, and they're in the wrestling business. Nick Khan and him is a production guy and in office with WWE, so it's not like they don't know wrestling.
Yep.
Tony's just new to this one, and evidently the family and dad was like, well, let's go into wrestling and see where this goes. Here's money for it, back it. And they're probably expecting to lose their ass for 4, 5, 6 years at least.
Oh yeah, I think it's easy to forget most businesses don't turn a profit for a few years. You have to, it's that old adage, you have to spend money to make it.
Yeah, most businesses are lucky to still be in business after 5 years.
Yeah, especially
the wrestling business.
Yeah. It feels like that the first year is always, the honeymoon phase. Everything's great, can't go wrong from there. The second year gets a little rocky. That third year just always seems to bring out, your grit and gut. That's where things are going to go wrong. Is that third year, it seems.
Yeah, by the third year, the news wore off. And now it's like, okay, by the third year, you where's my loyal fan base? Where's my loyal office guys and people that are going to stick with it? And you can look and see the guys that are still there when it started compared to now.
Yeah.
Even when Cody left and he took his bid for WWE, it wasn't anything personal from what he said. He goes, I just have to go do this. He was like, my time there is done. That was my baby. I'll come to it eventually, I'm sure, but he got a hell of an offer from there. He was able to go be Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't he? And honestly, that's going to put eyes on AEW in the long run too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
He was in AEW. I remember that. Let's go back and see what they got going on. So him being on WWE TV, in my opinion, is going to give AEW a bigger platform for more eyes on them just through him being there.
Oh, absolutely. And I think it's telling to be able to say that, Cody, he wanted to come back and do the one thing that no one in his family has done, and that's be the top guy of that promotion.
And he's doing it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I think I would say it's not even an argument at this point. Cody is, without the belt so far, easily the most over Rhodes to ever step foot in Vince McMahon's company.
Yeah. I'd say he's one of the most over guys they've got on the roster right now. And that's with being injured and out after that pec tear and everything. I think had he not tore his pec, he'd probably be strapped up right now or going head to head with Roman or something by now.
Oh, yeah. So do you think Roman is going to actually break Hogan's record, or is he going to drop that belt to Cody at Mania?
I don't know. That's a tough one. Like the spiteful part of me wants to see him break Hogan's record, and then, but the other part of me is like, give Cody his Mania moment and don't make him wait another year. So that's a catch-22. I hope they don't do the thing where he keeps it through Mania and whatnot just to break it, and then they give the belt to Cody on like the Raw after or something.
Yeah. I was last year. I was 100% confident. I was like, there is no way Roman Reigns is dropping this belt to Cody. My wife actually has video. She's in our room. Me and my friends are watching. Roman wins. My friends are dead silent. I'm losing because I'm the only one in the house who was like, Roman's winning, you guys. He's not taking the fall tonight. I'm not as confident this year. I feel like this has to be Cody's moment. I don't know if you can keep him this hot for another 365 days.
Yeah, it would be Yeah, that was. I was surprised. I was surprised, but not they didn't drop it to him then, because I mean, with everything going on and like the whole story behind it, you couldn't write a better story, really. The shoe
No.
just dropped.
So sorry guys, the reason I disappeared is I got a text from my brother. It's like, hey, I'm standing outside with your Christmas. I'm like, Christmas was yesterday, man. I thought you gave me something. He's like, nah, your stuff is now just showing up. I'm like, okay. Brand new pair of Jordan 5s.
Oh, look at that.
So
your family likes you better than I do.
Nah, he gets a friend that gets everything secondhand. I'm pretty sure this is off the truck somewhere.
The 5 is in Roman numerals.
Yeah.
Jordan Cincos. What?
Yeah, wait, hold on.
No, we're good.
Yeah. So what part did you jump into that conversation, Ricky?
So I had the headset in the entire time that I was talking to him.
Yeah.
So I was listening the entire time.
He's drunk.
I will say, as much as they've gone this far, Roman just needs to break the Hogan record. I don't even care if he just Brock Lesnar's it from here on out. But
see, that's my problem. You know, put him back on TV at least. 11 or 12 matches this year. That's rough, man. That's rough, and I hate giving. I can very much like Rey Mysterio. I can respect what Hogan has done for the industry as the character. Yeah. Whereas the person himself is right. The person behind Hulk Hogan is might be questionable. He was at least on TV. He was at least defending and wrestling regularly, whereas Roman isn't. For whatever reason, be it the potential issues with leukemia.
When you break it down, though, how many times did Hogan really defend the title throughout the year, though, when he had it in WWF? If you break it down, they saved the defenses and stuff and all that for the big pay-per-views, and they only had 4 pay-per-views a year then. So, like, he was seen a lot, they throw him in tag matches and stuff and things like that to be able to. But
if we're talking his, but I think that's still more matches. Even just you count tag matches and stuff like that. He's it's that presence of being there that I think, and maybe it's just a jaded fact that I really just want to see Roman Reigns live, and every show I've gone to he hasn't been at. But
you know who has been there for you?
Huh?
Every time you've been there, you know who has been there for you? Rey Mysterio.
Because he's always jumping off the sky.
And you show that man so much hate, but he's always been there for you.
No, he wasn't at the Raw show I went to.
Well, that's your fault. You went to Raw.
Raw's great. Raw has mommy.
No, Zodiac, if you didn't know, Seth absolutely despises Rey Mysterio.
I don't. Okay.
He's like one of the nicest guys ever. How do you?
So I was an absolutely huge Eddie Guerrero fan. So when Eddie passed away, and it's again, I've never taken anything from Ray's ability. I just was like, man, Ray never took me as a guy to be good enough to surpass Eddie in terms of like getting a world title. And Eddie, right after Eddie's passing, Ray got that world title run directly after, and it was a good feel-good moment. But I was like, man, it feels shallow. Like he was just handed to him. He didn't earn it. He just took what was supposed to be Eddie's. They didn't build to it. That just kind of stuck with me. But I've always said, I respect that he is by far one of the best luchadors to do it. I think the closest is maybe Dragon Lee. Dragon Lee's really good.
They're saying he might be that next Rey Mysterio.
Yeah,
I'm really liking what
call
Commander's doing.
Next, I hate anybody calling anybody the next anybody, because that just seems to set you up to fail to begin with.
It's a high standard to live up to.
Yeah, the next Rey Mysterio, the next Shawn Michaels, the next Brock Lesnar, the next anybody. You know, it's best to be the first you than it is to be the next somebody else. You know, if that's going to happen, let that comparison comes naturally, but don't straddle somebody with that.
That's why I like what they did with Braun Breaker first. I was confused by it at first. I was like, well, everybody knows he's Rick Steiner's kid. Well, why don't they just use the Steiner name with him? And that was kind of what he said. He goes, I want to be my own thing. He goes, everybody knows who I am. He goes, but this is who I am here. You know, which he wrestles just like his dad and just like Scott and all that. Looks just like Rick Steiner.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's like, I want to make my own name. I was like, okay, I can respect that.
Yeah.
And he's really great with it. So.
Yeah.
I think he's going to do great things.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I actually think he's probably going to break the Steiner ceiling and do better than what either of those two guys did separately. Just because he stepped out of that shadow.
Yeah, Scott Steiner did some great stuff as a singles guy, but he had to change his whole persona when he did the whole Big Papa Pump thing. He changed everything about himself.
Yeah,
Breaker's pretty much being Rick Steiner, but as a singles competitor and doing really good. I wish he quit using the damn spear because everybody in the brother uses the spear. He at least looks like he's in half. But.
Yeah, I think you always have that argument. The worst spear, I'll say. Jey Uso is a terrible-looking spear.
I catch flack all the time because I always said Edge had a horrible-looking spear. It looked like he was just like running and hugging them.
Yep.
I was like, "That's not a finish. Stop it."
Edge
he had so many good moves, and he uses this like mediocre spear.
He had a great setup for it. You know, the whole going to the corner and the eyes and the pulling the hair back like that. He has a cool setup for it, but then. The move itself.
Yeah, it was very disappointing when he would actually hit the move.
I always like the Impaler DDT better.
Everything else about him, I love everything else about him. I hate that spear.
That Impaler DDT, that's very underrated.
Yeah, that was my favorite move that he had. I was like, I don't know why he just didn't keep using that or the downward spiral.
Yeah.
And the flashiness of it. Yeah. Spears fit good for WWE's mold, just like the super kick.
Yeah. And you can hit it on pretty much anybody.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's an issue for WWE style. Your move has to hit on everybody. If it doesn't hit on everybody, you got to find something else.
Yeah, for the most part, yeah. Unless you're like a guy like John Cena who can hit, you know, or Lesnar who can hit their move on anybody because they're just so freakishly strong.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't envy somebody taking any of Lesnar's offense.
So, I lost Zodiac.
I'm still here.
Yeah.
No, I saw your lips moving, but like, and it looked like it was doing something. Then like all sound cut. And I'm like, so. My dad told me a story about meeting Brock Lesnar, and this has made me never want to ever, like, run into Brock Lesnar. He was a stage crew, and they were pushing, like, the big racks of chairs out. And the one guy that was on the other end pushing, he told him, hey, slow down, we're getting close to this corner, And the guy didn't care, didn't listen. Went to push him straight through the corner, and all of a sudden, Dad ran to a wall. He's like, damn, that hurt. He's yelling at the guy, and he's like, then he turned around and realized that wall was growling at him. He looks directly at Brock Lesnar's nipples and then looks up. And he's like, I'm going to die today. Apparently, Paul Heyman was still... But he's like, I'm so sorry, blah, blah. Lesnar puts his hand on his shoulders like, are you alright? That was a hard hit. I didn't move, but you sure did.
Everybody
He's
I've
like,
talked to that's met him said he's just like a big old country boy. Like he's actually like fairly nice guy and all that for the
but
most
like
part.
he checked on Dad, then he looked around the chairs at the other guy. Was like, hey, didn't I tell him to? Didn't I hear him tell you to slow down? Where's your manager at? And he's like, the same day that he insulted Roman Reigns, though. So Dad isn't a wrestling fan. Dad met John Cena in a lunch line. Got all excited because John Cena talked to him. Looked over and there's this dude with really long dark hair, and he like looks at my dad. He's like, and my dad's like, "Can you believe it? It's John Cena." The guy got real pissed. Dad couldn't figure out why. I'm up in the seats. Dad comes around. He's like, "Yeah, I just met John Cena." Blah blah blah. And he's telling me about the guy. He's like, "I don't know what his problem was." And Roman Reigns' music hits him, and he goes, "Oh."
I didn't know.
I still say
I think no, go ahead, Rick.
my dad is the start of Acknowledge Me, because that was back when Sting and Triple H were going to Mania. So it was before the Tribal Chief stuff. All because my dad looked at Roman Reigns and said, "Hey, look, John Cena. Acknowledge Me."
I think one of my
that was the one thing that finally got him like good actual heat as far as a character instead of people just not liking it.
Yeah, they didn't like him for the right reasons.
Yeah, and then it got over and they started cheering him.
Yeah, now he's arguably more over than Vince could have ever gotten him on his own.
Yeah, he got over more. He's over with the crowd more now with this than when they were trying to get him over as a big babyface.
Yeah. Do you think he turns face at some point?
He almost has to eventually. That or from what I understand, he wants to take some time off and do some other stuff and do some family stuff and that. So that's where I'm on the fence. Like he might drop the belt at WrestleMania because he's wanting to take some time off and maybe do a couple movies and family stuff and this and that. That's word on the grapevine anyway.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, look how long he's been there full time, though. I mean, that's a lot of time that he's been there full time. He hasn't really taken much off, except for when he was hurt and when he had the bouts with leukemia.
Yeah.
So the only thing that made him take time off was cancer. So it's like I think he's earned a vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's easy for people to forget that. As much as even I just sit here and said, I wish he was there more. He's earned being at the top of the card. He's earned that time to go, all right, I want to spend time with my family. And I'm glad we're in an era of WWE that he can do that these guys and girls can have a family, go home, and be with them.
Yeah, because it wasn't always like that. You had to bring your girl with you on the road, or you'd get a day off here and there. I mean, a lot of them were wrestling and traveling 250, 300 days a year. So
yeah.
It's much more lax schedule now. It's still hectic because, I mean, now they have more things outside of the actual shows they do, appearances and signings and TV shows and this and that, and I'm sure he's doing a lot of that stuff too, especially with being their champion and all.
Yeah. So this is something that you mentioned that it made me think of the old, that 70s show crossover that they did with Rock and Ken Shamrock.
That was great.
Do you think there's room in today's world for the guys to keep doing that, where they do those crossover episode things, or is that just the boys would sooner just, if they're going to do it, let me be the star, kind of like the Cody Rhodes thing with the Go Big Show or the Miz and Mrs.
What do you mean, like making appearances on other sitcom type shows and stuff like that?
Yeah, like if I was just watching some Neil Patrick Harris stuff, so like, had they done crossovers with How I Met Your Mother, or I know Two Broke Girls, I believe, is still on, have cameos into that stuff now, or do you think it's the boys just kind of look and go, if I'm going to do a TV show, I'd rather be more of the centerpiece than a guest star?
think so. I'm sure it varies person to person, but I don't think so. I think a lot of them would still be up for stuff like that because that too is like a segue into bigger roles too.
Yeah.
Like if Roman wanted to appear, like what's a good sitcom and stuff that's out now that he might fit on. I don't know.
He's actually got some acting chops. I think he could do just about any role you put on him.
Right.
Yeah.
Pops up as Aquaman's brother on a Marvel spinoff. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
Him and Jason Momoa duke it out. I don't know. But like, I don't see why not.
Yeah, no,
The Miz did quite a few of those, and that's how he got some of his stuff, and then he did like the Marine movies and everything else. And,
yeah.
and surprisingly, he's a pretty good little actor too. I actually liked a lot of his stuff.
Yeah, I think he gets a lot of hate because a lot of the older wrestling fans that I used to talk with and do some stuff with, they just hated the Miz and like he's just some reality show punk. I'm like, yeah, that argument doesn't stand up very well anymore.
He earned his spots though, like because they dogged him, they ran him good, and they said they gave him crap, made him stay in separate locker rooms, this, that, everything, and he just took it. And there's interviews with him talking about that. He goes, "Oh, I screwed up." He was like, and the only reason I was allowed back in the regular locker room was, eventually Taker was like, "You're all right, you're back in the locker room." And they made him dress in the supply closets in his car, the hallway. They wouldn't let him in the locker room, and I don't know. He's earned his spots, and he'll do anything to entertain. How many times has he made an ass out of himself on TV?
Yeah.
He gets his heat back every time. Don't get me wrong, but he's done a good job at making other people look good and building them up. So.
Yeah. No,
and he's a good promo. He's a great promo.
God, yeah. I've said for a long time, Miz is probably one of the top 10 promos to do it.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could go into top 5 because I feel like then you're bumping into Bobby Heenan and Paul Heyman and Rock, but
right. Well, I always separate managers and wrestlers. Like, even if we're talking wrestlers, I wouldn't put him in my top 5 promo guys. But
yeah, no,
he's definitely up there in the top 10 for mic skills and charisma and this and that.
Yeah.
Because he can do that thing that's hard for a lot of people to do, is like he can flip a crowd back and forth. He can come in with them hating him, get them liking him, and then swerve them and make them hate him again. So he's got good control with that stuff.
Yeah, not a lot of guys can do that very well.
Right.
Who would you say is the top promo today?
Top promo today? That's a tough one. WWE or just in general?
In general. So I'm the AEW guy of the group. Steph's the WWE guy of the group. But I watch everything.
Nothing wrong with that. I like it all. Top promo, man. That's a tough one. Punk's always got a good promo. That's his main thing. And he can control a crowd really good.
Yeah.
I might get flack for this. One of my favorite promo guys, honestly, and he gets a lot of flack, is Eddie Kingston. I love Eddie Kingston's promo work.
Kingston's fantastic. Who gives you flack for saying Eddie Kingston?
Yeah, I've had people get flack about that just because he doesn't look like your typical wrestler, and a lot of his promos are like, "This ain't no promo, this is real." And like, I've traveled with him and done shows with him, especially when I was with IWA and all that. And like, what you see on TV is pretty much him. So it's like, I watched this man on a video cut a promo on a cookie, giving a lesson on promos, and like, he gets an emotional response. So his promos are great. And then like the other guy, I'll tell you another one who's really good that don't get enough credit for their promos is Sami Zayn. Sami Zayn is Cody's a great promo guy. He can tell a good story, but like Sami Zayn is a great promo. I like the offbeat guys. I don't like to throw out the main guys except for like a Punk, because that's what he's known for his promo stuff, and he's good at that. And like I've been around forever, so like I remember him working in the dungy ass IWA Mid South shows in Clarksville, Indiana, in a warehouse, and seeing him cut promo on guys, and then watching him progress with it. I'm like, it's the same promo as he was cutting then, just better, you know.
Yeah.
But those are my promo guys pretty much. I like Kingston, Punk, Sami Zayn. Who else? Cody's a good promo. Roman's actually gotten really good at his promos.
Oh yeah.
He's gotten a lot better. If we're talking in general between wrestlers and managers, I don't think anybody can touch Paul Heyman. I think Paul Heyman's one of the best guys on the microphone in the last 15, 20 years. So
yeah, I think, I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find anybody who could step up and get a crowd eating from the palm of their hands as quickly as Paul Heyman.
Yeah,
that guy
he's very long-winded, but he keeps you hooked with it, and he can pace and everything.
Yeah, yeah. I remember I was watching an inside the ropes with Paul Heyman, and he was talking about one of his first shows. He went out and he talked about the show, and he talked, and he went to the back. And I think it was Bischoff who was like, "Well, that was great, but you didn't sell a damn thing." And Paul was like, "What do you mean? I talked about the main event and this and that." And he goes, "Yeah, but no, you didn't say anything that makes anybody want to tune in and spend their money to watch this." And then I started listening to like his promos since then. At the time, it was Taker streak had just been broken, so I'm listening to that. And even you listen to the stuff he does, and you're like, "Yeah, man, he talks, and you want to see what he's talking about now."
Right?
Just don't. I don't want to say most guys don't have that, but they don't elicit the reaction as easily as Paul Heyman.
Right. I haven't seen a manager with that kind of promo stuff since probably Heenan. Heenan was incredible on microphone commentary, and he could make people flip flop back and forth whatever he wanted.
Yeah,
and he reminds me of that modern day but sleazier Bobby Heenan, that weaselly grind. Talking about promos, this is more of a comedic type, I guess, but I popped when R-Truth came back.
Oh my god!
I think we all did.
I don't think it didn't pop when R-Truth came back, and this whole angle with the Judgment Day, I think it's kind of what they need.
My only hope is like with this run they're doing with him, however long they're going to keep him, they actually give him a good title run and let him do something, because he can wrestle his ass off.
Oh yeah,
he's incredible, and especially for what, 50 some years old.
Yeah,
and he looks better than half the guys on the roster.
Yeah, I think people forget how good R-Truth can be.
Yeah, he's a
go back and watch those Ron Killings and TNA and that early K-Quick stuff in WWF.
Woo. And he's better now than he was then.
Yeah, that's
so
the
it's like,
part.
Yeah, he's just gotten better the older he's gotten. Him and Randy Orton and AJ have all gotten better the older they've gotten. It's insane.
Oh,
but when
God,
he popped up, I was so hyped for that. And then I see them put him with the Judgment Day. I was like, this is going to be gold. Because now it's a flashback to Sami Zayn had the serious role with the whole bloodline thing, but he had a comedic aspect to it, and it got serious. So I'm like, if they do something similar with this, with R-Truth, and then it turns into something a little more serious as they go, that could be really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because I think the current WWE fan doesn't really grasp. Like, as dumb as it sounds, I don't think they even remember when he was challenging John Cena.
Yeah.
And people were going, "Oh man, this R-Truth guy, he's a killer. He's dangerous." I think the furthest back that memory goes is Little Jimmy.
Yeah. Well, he was always after they did the serious runs with Cena and all that, and then they did the whole thing where like he just kind of went wacko.
Yeah.
And was doing Little Jimmy and the stuff with Gold Dust, and they were the Golden Truth and all this other stuff. And everybody loved it so much. I was like, well, we can't put him in a serious role now because this is over. And he was selling merch. His segments were over with the crowd. People would tune in to watch these 5-minute segments. Like he'd go out in matches that he wasn't even in, and like I'm going to win Money in the Bank. Like you're not even in Money in the Bank. I'm not. Oh, that's my
No,
bad. My bad.
my bad. My bad. And you
That's
can
on
tell,
me.
and you can tell that stuff's over because there's compilation clips of it now, of just the R-Truth my bad compilations.
They've got so many views. Like I listen to them and watch them on road trips because they're just funny.
Yeah,
Or if I'm working in the shop, I'll put them on sometimes and listen to them and watch them. Especially if I'm trying to get ideas for promo stuff or segments for like other things. And why not?
you know, I feel like this is just from a fan looking in. I'm not, as much as I want to be involved in the business, I'm not as into the business as I'd like to be. I feel like a lot of guys are afraid to be goofy with their character because I think that it's like they're afraid there's no coming back from being goofy. But man, Kurt Angle did it. R-Truth has proven you can, and Santino even has proven that you can have a very successful career by being funny.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so the funny thing is too, like Santino is a legitimate badass.
Yeah.
Like he's a shooter and a martial artist and like an MMA fighter. Like he will rip you 10 ways from Wednesday, but what he did got over with the whole Cobra stuff and everything else, and the Santina and all this. He was like, "That's what they wanted. I didn't have to be a badass there."
Yeah.
And why not? It was easier too. Extended his career.
Oh,
He's
yeah,
out
absolutely.
now doing and he runs a school and everything else, and he's wrestling more now. But like, he's a bad dude. Like he'll stretch your ass.
Oh, yeah.
Even with my gimmick, like my gimmick's more kind of serious at times and dark and menacing and this and that. But I've done my share of comedy stuff, and I throw all kinds of weird stuff out there. That's why I got different versions of the gimmick. You'll hear guys on commentary put that over, but like you don't know what version you're going to get. You might get the taco loving, fun, monstery guy. You might get the guy that's ready to burn you at the stake. It's like you don't know. And I've done other various things in and out of the mask to where it's like nothing but I love British wrestling and British comedy type stuff, like Les Collette and all them. And that's where a lot of my stuff comes from. Regal when he was doing some of the comedy stuff. So I'm going to be doing more of that. I'm going to be doing more of that next year with the new year coming up, even with this. So it's you got to have fun with it here and there.
Yeah.
And if it gets over, it gets over. That's the whole point. Get over, get booked, entertain the fans, make you some money. If it sells, it sells.
Yeah, I think I remember when I first you were actually going to be at the Desire on the 6th. One of the first shows I went to, there was a tag team match. I don't remember the other guys, and I feel bad for saying that, but it was Izzy Lambert and Craven were teaming together, and Craven at that stage was just this whiny, absolute garbage whiny heel, and I was like, dude, he's funny, but he's not gonna get anywhere. And then by the end of the year, was holding the Desire Pro Wrestling Championship.
I actually talked to him about that because like I did his first sets of gear and everything else, and like I had his match with the TPI and we've done a number of things together. And I remember him asking me about that at Desire and a couple other places. He goes, I'm kind of doing this, like, it's kind of a culty thing with what I'm doing, but it's more the whiny, obnoxious, like, I don't want to say, chicken heel, because he wasn't really a chicken heel, but more whiny. And I was like, you have to look at it. I was like, you have to look at it in perspective, okay? You're 5'8" at best. You're probably 175 pounds. You're not big. You don't look intimidating. I wouldn't be afraid of you counting money in a dark alley in Chicago. So it's like you have to figure your niche. You can still be the dark, kind of culty guy, but those guys aren't physically intimidating. They're mentally manipulative. So be whiny. And then as soon as you get your opportunity, jump on the guy like a honey badger, and then rip him apart. Kind of like old Jimmy Jacobs style stuff, things like that. and because he was trying to find direction with what to do, and he's been doing it more, um, and he's found ways to make his offense work for his size. But I was like, and you have Izzy with you. Izzy's a big guy,
Yeah.
I was like, so there's your muscle to hide behind. There's your Diesel to your Sean or whatever, and run with it, and it worked.
Yeah.
I was like, work on your promo stuff and everything else, and go from there. Um, and like you were talking about with the not being afraid to do the comedic type stuff and that. I've worked with Izzy twice at Desire. Me and him have wrestled twice.
Yeah.
And our original idea was go out there and have a big kind of slugfest, two big guys and everything else. Well, by the time we get out there, though, and Izzy's got personality, and people hating because just what he's going up, and then I was over, so we spent probably a third of the match just me chasing him off, doing this, a little comedy stuff.
Yep.
And Izzy's one of those guys that's smart enough to go, they're into this, scrap what we got, let's see if we roll with it. Yeah. So I didn't have to tell him what was going on. So we have our match. We scrapped probably 80% of what we had and just rolled with something else, blah, blah, got to the back. He goes back in the back and just grin. He's like, that was great. I was like, we had to change everything, but I'm glad you're rolling. He goes, that was so good and fun. He goes, and I didn't have to kill myself, blah, blah, blah. And we went out at intermission, and the crowd was like, that was one of our favorite matches. And the promoter was like, well, we wanted a slugfest, but that got over. That was good. So then they put us together again like 2 shows later, and we did something similar. But where they had seen it before, the crowd was on the message board, showing my age, on Facebook and on the post and stuff. It's like, oh, we want to see this. Their last match was really good. Because we had a lot of the comedic aspects, but it was still a physical competition. It was still, 2 guys throwing out there, but half the match was just, I don't want to say slapstick comedy, but like kind of ham and egg storytelling comedy. Yeah. We made them wait to see the wrestling aspect, and got them built up. And we had to look at where we were at on the card and who we were in between, because the match before us, we weren't going to go out and do the same stuff they did because it was a high-flying, insane match. So we couldn't do that. So we had to bring them back down and then bring them back up. The match after us, I can't remember what it was. It was a tag, maybe. It might have been the girls. So we had to give them a little something. So we had to look at where we were at on the card, too. Because the guys before us went out there and just killed it as far as athleticism, high-flying, this and that, moves. It was like New Japan style brain busters, this and everything. It was awesome.
Like that super indie stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like, we're not doing that. Like we're not like we do it, yeah, but we're not going to be able to do it to the level of those guys what they just did. Plus, they just seen it. So bring them down, bring them back up.
Do you think that's we actually? I posed this question to one of our previous guests, the legendary Larry D. I'll pose the same question to you. Do you think that crowds? Or do you think the guys are afraid to interact with the crowd? Like if the crowd is going at one more time. Are guys afraid to just follow that crowd motion? Just kind of stick with what we have pre-built?
I think a lot of guys don't know how to. Which it's a style of wrestling more predominant now, laying everything out. But the only catch with that is if you don't know how to go out there and change it up on the fly and say whatever you're doing, say they're not buying what you're doing or they're into something totally different, you can try and force it and keep going with plan A, B, and C, and hopefully they catch it. Or if you're competent enough and have the experience and you've been trained to do it, you can flip it and say, oh, okay, they're not into me working this guy's arm and us doing this, but they're into me poking him in the eye, and chickening out, blah, blah, blah. So let's just go with that. A lot of guys, I think, would throw them off too when the crowd's not into what they're doing. They don't know how to change gears and get them into something else. Or they don't know how to command the crowd. They know how to do A, B, C, D, but they don't know how to get the crowd invested in A, B, C, D. So when they don't respond the way they want, they don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
You know, and that's really where like the fun and the art of wrestling is. That's where the storytelling comes in, and for me anyway, the fun part, because I don't call crap half the time. I'll get
Yeah.
a format down and like where we're going, but most of the time I just go out there and wrestle. Uh, like here's what I do. I do this, this, and this. We'll put it in somewhere. All right, great. What do you do? All right, we'll put it in somewhere, and then we fill in the gaps.
Yeah.
Um, I wrestled Hoodfoot at Wrestle Arts a few months back, and we got lucky because Nick Aldis was there, and that was before he went to back to NWA, and then before he went to WWE as a GM there. And great dude. He sat and watched all the matches and everything else, and he watched ours. And me and Hoodfoot we're like, all right, we'll do this, we'll do this, we'll do this. We'll just make sure we put it somewhere. All right,
Yeah.
great. And we knew our end game. And we come back, and Aldis was like, that was two big men just throwing meat. It was like, that was a good match. He goes, the only thing I would say was put this here and this here. Flip these two. Because we did a spot in the beginning where it was like big moves, and then
Yeah.
we rolled to the outside, and then we had an exchange, like strike exchange, later on. He goes, I would have flipped it and put that here and this here. He goes, it's nothing dire, but I think you would have got a better build and reaction that way. He said, other than that, good stuff. I was like, I appreciate that. He goes, how much of it did you put together? I was like, we just knew what we were going to do at some point. And that's it. I, he goes, I would have thought you called everything back here and knew exactly what you're doing. I was like, so, and then he went out there with Aaron Williams and just killed it. They stole the whole show with that one. That was incredible.
Yeah.
He's
a hell of a worker.
Oh, he's incredible. He's built like a freaking stud.
Yeah.
Even at his age. But yeah, Larry's like the people that go to Larry's school and like Cody Hawks and Nightmare Factory, a couple of them places, are lucky in that aspect because they teach that.
Yeah.
You know, you'll watch they do drills on just working on the fly, this and that, because it's a very emotional based business. If you watch my matches, I don't do a lot of stuff normally unless it calls for it. You know, unless they're like go out there and go 15, 20 minutes, then we kind of have to. But
yeah,
I tell everybody, do 3 or 4 things really well, and you learn to engage the crowd and see what they want to do instead of spot. You know, which there's nothing wrong with spot matches. I love lucha. I love that New Japan style. I love that super indie style of wrestling because it all fits in somewhere. But Ospreay, if you look at Ospreay, he's learned how to take that spotty indie style, that New Japan style, and sprinkle in storytelling and emotion with it. And I think where it really clicked for him, did you ever see the spot where, it might have been Tanahashi, hit him with the Rana off the top, and he cut the front flip and landed on his feet.
Yeah.
And the camera zooms around, and you just see him go. And you see Tanahashi behind him, like, I think like that was a point when it clicked for him, like, all right, I got it. This is it.
Yeah.
And
this is the way.
His storytelling got so much better. Like, people shit on the matches with him and Ricochet because they were boom, boom, boom. I'm like, y'all seen a 30-second clip of them going bananas. Go watch the whole match. The whole match is really good.
That match is insane.
All their matches are insane. Japan has a different appreciation for that, too, because in Japan, they understand its storytelling, so they appreciate the athleticism. The American crowd, for some reason, tend to shit on it and go, that's not wrestling, it's not believable. It's a show. You know it's a show.
I feel like I think that's the difference in the way the two cultures brought it up. You know, Japan had always brought it up as this very physical, yet storytelling genre, where in America it was, for some reason, you know, the Hulk Hogan, Hulk it up, you know, that's an art. Yeah, they're all wrestling, but for whatever reason, I feel like the American fans look at it and go, well, that's how it's supposed to be done. And if you're not pantomiming like that, you're not really wrestling.
Right. If it doesn't look like 100% real, like a fight, then it's not real wrestling. It's not supposed to be wrestling. But then at the same time, you look at that same era. That's when we had like the Undertaker. The most over guy was a guy that was portraying a zombie,
Yeah.
shooting lightning out of his fingers, different stuff like that. So it's like even in the Memphis days, they had hokey gimmicks. You
Yeah.
know, Cornette got joked on about that. It was like, we made it look real back then. Like, you managed the Christmas creature, bro. It's like, come on. There was some dumb stuff y'all did.
Most people forget about the Christmas creature.
Actually, I completely forgot about the Christmas creature until you said it, and it just popped right to the forefront of my mind. And now that's gonna live rent free again.
Very much. Christmas creature versus the Yeti.
Growing up, I was always a big fan of Repo Man. I don't know what. I was like, that's a great gimmick.
So I was having a conversation. I don't know if you know who the Motor Boys are, Murray and Mikey Motor. I said they need to have the Repo Man at some point in time do a cameo. All right, just yet. Look up Murray and Mikey Motor. Mikey more wrestles. Murray does managing here and there. They're used car salesmen that moonlight as professional wrestlers, and you need to. I was like, y'all need the Repo Man at some point to do a cameo. Right?
Yes. That would be amazing. Just that in itself, without doing any research, that already used car salesman moonlighting as professional wrestlers. Then I'm already sold. So, oh man, that's fantastic.
Or my Chance Prophet inspired mask, actually.
I've seen Chance Prophet a few times. He's so smooth.
Yeah, we tag here and there, and then we wrestled at Shane Mercer's XCF show a couple weeks ago. We've been building up a match, so I'm a huge Great Muta fan, and so I always liked his reveals with his masks.
Yeah.
So I painted mine up to look like Chance's, except for with the X, and I wore the black and white gear like he wears, like we would tag in. But he's never seen this mask. I did this one over the weekend, and so when I got to the show and stuff, and like I was getting dressed and putting everything on, he's like, "Oh, okay."
Nice. Honestly,
we had a good solid.
Yeah, no, I haven't seen. Last time I saw Prophet live would have been, oh my god, longer than 4 years ago. It was at Remix in Marietta.
Yeah.
I think that I was the same show that Styles and the Bucks were at before he signed with WWE. So I mean, it's been a while.
That's a while ago then. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he's still working for ASW, a number of places down that way, and then he's running Power Slam Pro, the wrestling academy in school. He's wrestling as much as he can. And like I said, I seen him a couple weeks ago. I talk to him every week pretty much. I've known him for, I don't know how long, 20 years now. Yeah, and he's just as good now and smooth now as he was then. So.
No, I remember watching him the very first time I saw him again. It was one of those old remix shows, and my buddy Sean Taft brought me. It was the first show I went to, and he goes, I told him, I said, this guy, he's something fucking special.
Mm-hmm.
I'm so impressed by that work.
We had a fun one at New South Wrestling, New South LLC in Lawrenceburg, Kentucky. Me and him were tagging there a bit, and we tagged against AJ Kazana and Anthony Andrews when they had the NWA, was it North American tag titles?
Yeah.
That was a fun one. We tagged against them there, and we were trying to get that match down at NWA, and I think they end up dropping the titles like not too long after that, and they're doing something different now. But we were trying to get that match booked down there, and it hadn't happened yet. But we keep bugging them to see what happens, see if we can get down there and tag. Because we were talking about that at the XCF show. Because he said that, he goes, I want to get back down to NWA. He goes, I think that's just where my fit is for what I do. And so we were putting up videos like book us together, tagging like Billy Corgan and NWA and tagging Tony Khan and all that. And people started sharing it, but we still ain't heard nothing from anybody. So I was like, we'll just keep bugging them all year.
That's how you do it sometimes. Just throw it out there and then keep throwing it out there. Eventually it'll catch, theoretically.
Yeah, that's how Warriors got on AEW and stuff and got his match. He started putting them out there, and then people just started sharing it, and it was like, well, I guess we need to book this guy.
Yeah.
And I think Anderson liked him. And next thing you know, he's wrestling Cody Rhodes for the title in that open challenge Cody was doing on AEW. I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So
do you think AEW needs to do something like that again, where they just, bring a guy in and have him wrestle, like an established, maybe not maybe like a Moxley or a Claudio?
that could be interesting. I think if they do it, it needs to be with somebody that's got some good notoriety where it means something,
Yeah.
Like, because when Cody was doing it, it's like that's your top guy doing an open challenge for anybody.
Yeah.
It reminded me of the old territory days where the champion would travel around and take on whoever was local and their top guy and establish them. So, like, who's their champion right now? I don't even know who their champion is.
MJF is right now.
MJF. Okay, I don't know if he still had the belt or what. So I mean,
if rumors are to be believed, he'll drop it probably next Saturday because he's working with injury. If rumors are to be believed,
he must have shot her up pretty bad and stuff. He got hurt. He's gotten hurt a couple times the last few shows.
Yeah.
But if they did something like that with like him or
Omega,
maybe a Chloe or Omega, or whenever Omega comes back, because he's in the hospital with diverticulitis and all that, he's a mess right now too.
Yeah.
They would have to have somebody that where it's going to mean something. I know Kingston did a thing like that for a minute where he would challenge local guys and he would just knock them out with that spinning back in like 2 minutes with the Hurricane.
Oh my God, yeah. Speaking on Omega real quick, I want to kind of get your thoughts on it. Everyone knows that he's been working, hurt. Do you think that sends a bad message to these young up-and-comers? Wrestling's dangerous inherently, but if you know something's wrong, like, you can't tell me he didn't know something was wrong for a while. That old mindset of just push through it. Do you think that's something that is there room for it still in this business, or do guys just need to start taking care of themselves better?
There's room for it, but you got to gauge it. The problem is, like, you get guys like Omega and some of these other guys, and even like a Kingston or a Moxley or this and that. And Moxley's even said that. He was like, I had to stop doing that because he would push and push and push till he wound up he couldn't get out of bed.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was before where, like, if you didn't work, you didn't have a job. You didn't work, you didn't get paid. Some of these guys are on contract. But you take the guys that are on the indies and that, gauge, you have to gauge. We say, is the juice worth the squeeze? Is working hurt on this show going to be worth the risk and the reward? And two is some guys don't know how to work around injury. Like when I came up, we would get hurt, and it was like that where if you didn't work, somebody else was going to take your spot probably, and sometimes you couldn't afford to do that. But you learned how to work around those injuries, and you would work together. Be like, hey, watch my shoulder. Hey, watch this, watch that. So you wouldn't do certain things. And I think there's such a high expectation for guys now, too, though, to perform at such a high level, especially since they don't wrestle as much, that they want to go out there, like Danielson, they want to go out there and put on that insane main event style 5-star match, no matter where they are on the card. And you can't do that. It takes a toll on you. So it's like whenever I teach guys, I don't teach guys often, but whenever I do like a seminar or this and that, I tell them, I'm like, you have to listen to your body and know when to say when on certain stuff, and either say, I can't do this or this, but I can do this, or look at it and say, I have to take off. Otherwise, I'm not. Otherwise, this one night of me working is going to cost me 2 months worth of work.
Yeah. And I think Stevie Richards said it best. When he was talking about Moxley getting that concussion. He said, wrestlers can be kind of stupid sometimes. We need somebody there to protect us.
Our pride is a horrible thing. And sometimes too, when you're out there, you get so desensitized to it, numb to it, you don't realize how hurt you are
Yeah.
until either you get back in the back or you take a week off and you're like, man, I'm really messed up. Like my shoulder's jacked. I can't raise my arm above my head, this and that. Um, it doesn't sink in. Like I'm very safe with what I do, but was it last year before? I took like a good 6 months off doing a new job. I was on the road doing surveying work, and I didn't know if I was going to stick with that and just call off wrestling and be done for a while or what. But that was a physical job. But in that 6 months of me not being in a ring, really, you start healing and your body's not as numb to it. You're not as callous. And then you're like, man, I'm sore. I hurt. What is wrong with me? Why is my hip hurt? You're not bumping. You're not in the ring. You're not doing your routine, this and that. And then it really clicks. You get very callous to it. it Anybody I've talked to that's wrestled for a long time, when they retire or quit, that first 6 months or so, it's like a recovery phase. You have to recover from not wrestling. It's crazy. It sounds nuts, but your body goes through this whole change of, okay, I'm not guarded from this abuse. I'm not callous to it anymore.
Yeah.
And it starts healing almost like you would like a bodybuilder. They tear their muscles down. The healing part's what builds them back up. Well, you've been tearing your body down week after week, taking bumps and bruises and chops and hits and this and that. Now you're not doing it, so your body goes, oh, well, we can heal up. And that healing process.
Yeah, I think Kurt Angle said something around that effect too when he right after his last match with Baron Corbin a couple years ago. We say I took that time off as that GM and I started to heal, and he's like, man, if I just would have kept bumping, I would have kept moving. I wouldn't have stiffened up.
Yeah, it's crazy, but it's true. I've heard football players say that too in the off season, like where they're not playing so much and getting beat up in training. They have to keep training during the off season, otherwise they hurt.
Yeah,
I could actually back what he's saying, because back when I played sports and all that, and as Seth knows, and I know there was that whole big thing of don't do this at home. I was that idiot. I jumped off the buildings. I jumped off the ladders. The trampoline sometimes caught me, but I played a lot of sports, and there's times where I was like, damn, I feel good. I shouldn't feel this good with what... There was a day I just got done with football practice, got home, my brother was like, dude, I want to wrestle. And then as we were like wrestling on the trampoline, he goes, I bet you can't do a shooting star press. Let's find out. So I climbed up on top of the building, did a shooting star press off onto the trampoline. Completely crashed and burned. I'm like, damn, I should be more tore up than what I am. I just kept going like that for months on months on months, and then I blew my knee out at football. And my first week of after blowing my knee out, I was like, all right, my knee hurts.
So does everything else. And wrestling's a whole different world compared to other sports. Like various sports are hard and made for different people. Like I'd never be a great basketball player or a track runner, unless I played center. Like if I was playing center in basketball, usually if we were playing a street game or a pickup game or whatever or something at school, that's what I would do. I would set picks and play center or this or that. Do that because I was hard to get around. But I'm great in 16 by 16 and 18 by 18 distances or short form combat. That's it.
Yeah.
But we would have guys I trained at Bone Crushers Wrestling School in Cincinnati with Roger Ruffin and the Wrestling Federation. And we would have guys come in like, oh, I played football. I wrestled in high school. I wrestled in college. I played soccer. Surprisingly, the soccer players and rugby players did really good. And then you would get like the collegiate wrestlers that they would catch on quick to the moves and techniques. But they would hit that mat for a couple hours and get mat burned and taking bumps and smack their head on the mat because they don't know how they would hit those ropes and get tore up all through here. And a lot of them didn't last, man. They were like, "This is ridiculous. This is the hardest thing I've ever been through. If y'all do this every week." I'm like, "We do this 3 days a week." They're like, "There ain't no way." Fantasy camps were always fun because they would give them like a quarter of what we would go through and let them hit that mat and this and that. And people think it's like a trampoline, and that shit hurts, man.
No, no. Very similar to Ricky. I had my own little, don't do this at home, but we did. Except ours was in my parents' basement, so the closest to padding we got was the 1/8 inch of carpet over the concrete, where we're doing, climbing up and doing backflips and choke slams onto this concrete. And it's like, when you're doing it every weekend with your friends in that same essence, you're like, oh yeah, this is nothing. I don't think I could do that right now.
I have people that have asked me, they're like, Ricky, as much as you love wrestling, why didn't you ever go into it? And honestly, it's the biggest regret of never actually going and finding formal training. They're like, well, you're at the age now where, you could still get... No! I took one bump like a week ago and I still feel it. What? No! I'll sit here and I'll happily talk to people that do it, but I'm not that stupid right now. If I went and I was taking bumps training, my wife would have to cart me around, and that was just a no.
She already carts you around. Why are you lying like that?
Did I show you my new shoes?
Talking about significant others and all kinds of craziness. What time is it? 7:10. All right. I'm probably gonna have to pop off here in a second.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
The battery's at 10%. I just noticed that too. It's 10 after 7 already.
Wow, we've been recording for over an hour.
Yeah. I get rambling. I ain't even gonna lie. I get talking and going on. I sit there and talk forever.
Yeah, no, it's...
Especially if it's good, fun conversation.
I'm gonna send this real quick to you, because we were just talking about the Ricky taking bumps, and we mentioned it. I don't remember if it was right before we went on or right after that that trash can shot. I just sent that to you on. It's an interesting one. But I don't want to keep you too much longer. I do have one. It's Ricky's going to roll his eyes as soon as we start to ask this question because he knows where it's going. All right. So this is an argument my old assistant and I have been having for about a year and a half now, and every person I talk to, I have to ask this question. All right. So if you see a box of Velveeta shells and cheese, right? What do you call that?
Of what? Macaroni and cheese?
Would you call it macaroni and cheese, or would you call it shells and cheese?
Oh, it's an actual box of the shells and cheese?
Velveeta shells and cheese. Would you call that a box of macaroni and cheese or a box of shells and cheese?
Shells and cheese.
Yeah.
Macaroni and cheese and shells and cheese are totally different. Yeah, that's two totally different things.
That's what I've been saying. That's what this argument has been about for about a year and a half now.
I need to make you merch that's just shells and cheese versus mac and cheese. Jesus Christ.
That's the full.
Yeah, I used to manage a GameStop, and he was my assistant. He came in one day, and he's like, "My mom said she's making shells and cheese, but I was like, it's just mac and cheese." I'm like, "No, it's shells and cheese. There's a difference."
Oh, totally different.
And yeah,
there's a whole different market for it. I know people that would get mad if you say you're making like mac and cheese and it's shells and cheese and vice versa, or what? Yeah, or if you there's a big difference in shells and mac and cheese.
That's what I told him, and I kid you not, man, it's been about a year and a half of this argument back and forth.
Oh, and if you look at the boxes too, because I look at numbers and everything, you actually get less in a box of shells and cheese because they're the shells than in the mac and cheese because of the elbow noodles.
Yeah, yeah. But you get a better cheese. I think the Velveeta cheese is way creamier than what you get in the box.
Yes. Yeah. Like my for the holidays, my girl made baked mac and cheese, and she was like, "I need elbow macaroni for mac and cheese." I'm like, "All right," and she makes like the cheese sauce, everything. Like it's thick, like it's
Yes.
Yeah, and it was really good. I was like, "Do you want the shells or the mac and cheese?" She goes, "No, just get the elbow macaroni ones and whatnot." And I was like, "Okay, fine." And that's one of the funny things. Like, we got shells and cheese money right now. Do we have shells? I'm like,
that's the question you gotta ask. You have the money for the shells. Well, I say, you're about out of power, and I don't want to keep you too much longer. Zodiac, thank you for joining us today, man. Hopefully we can do this again.
Definitely. It was fun. You guys have a good one. I'm gonna go get some mac and cheese now. Shit. Huh?
Sounds good. Take her easy, man.
Have a good one.
Everyone will see you in the next episode. Bye.